Hey, what's up, YouTube fans? What I wanted to talk about in this video, right, is the evolutionary reducibility of multicellularity, right? Meaning being made out of multiple cells as opposed to being made out of a single cell, which some living things are just a single cell, right? But in the case of us humans, we're made out of, the average adult human is made out of trillions of cells, right? So in any event, the evolutionary reducibility of multicellularity, even though it's one of the biggest evolutionary transitions to ever happen, it's actually very easy to explain because scientists have actually observed the evolution of multicellularity in the lab. In modern times, they've observed it, right? They've literally observed single-celled species evolve multicellularity. So there's a good paper on this titled De novo origins of multicellularity in response to predation, and they report on observing species of single-celled organisms evolve multicellularity within a stretch of time, and it was a controlled laboratory experiment, right? But they didn't force any result. They just set up the environmental conditions, and it happened within a relatively short period of time. Whereas for like when it happened in nature, there were billions of years worth of time for it to happen. So. And I'll link in the description of this video, or like in the comments of this video, I'll link the paper I'm talking about, de novo origins of multicellularity in response to predation. But some of you might not be satisfied with that on the basis of, you might say, well, but that doesn't show that humans could have evolved from single-celled organisms. And so, what's some evidence that humans could have evolved from single-celled organisms? So first, even though humans are made out of trillions of cells, right, the fundamental structure to our cells is very much like that of many single-celled organisms, right? Especially choana flagellates, which a lot of evidence indicates are the closest living relatives of animals and their single-celled organisms. They have a lot of similarities of their cell structure. A lot of similar proteins that they use. And they're especially similar to many of the cells in some sponges, which sponges are one of the most primitive animals, right? Most distant to the rest of living animals, right? And then furthermore, further evidence that humans could have evolved from single-celled organisms, right, is that in our earliest stages of development, humans actually are single-celled organisms. You started out as a single cell, right? And then you only later grow and develop, eventually taking on your current form, right? And you start out with special cells called stem cells, which actually have the ability to become any type of cell in the body, whether nerve cell or muscle cell, bone cell, etc. they have the ability to specialize into any cell in the body, right? And almost every cell in your body has the same genetic instructions, all of the same DNA. So the cells in your hand have within them the genetic instructions for how to make an eye, and the cells in your eye have within them the genetic instructions for how to make a hand, right? And so all of this is strong evidence that we could have evolved from single-celled organisms. Also supporting evidence is that in the certain parts of like the overall structure of our body on the multicellular level did not have to come about in the same step as the evolution of multicellularity, because the most primitive animals, sponges, right, they, even though they're multicellular, they do not have any organs or even tissues, right? And so all of that could have come about in later steps after the evolution of multicellularity. It didn't have to all come about at once. Also, sponges are asymmetrical. They have no body symmetry. And then comb jellies and jellyfish, which are a few of the other most primitive animals, they're not bilaterally symmetrical like us. Comb jellies are biradially symmetrical, and jellyfish are radially symmetrical. It's because we're part of a group called the bilaterians that we're bilaterally symmetrical, where our left side of our body mirrors our right side. And then also because we're bilaterians, our body is divided into a series of repeating segments, right? And also because we're bilaterians, we have the mesoderm germ layer, so we're tripoblastic, having 3 germ layers, which are the primary layers of cell during embryonic development that develop into all of the different regions of the body. We have 3 germ layers, right? Whereas in some primitive animals like jellyfish, they have only 2 germ layers, right? And so many of these features of our fundamental structuring of our body on the multicellular level could have come about in later steps. They didn't have to come about in the same step as the evolution of multicellularity. And what you're finally going to want to understand, right, is just that it wouldn't have been a transition directly from single cell to human, right? There's many intermediate steps, right? And so it would have been more so like single cell to something like a sponge, right? And even in between those, there would have been intermediate steps, right? And it's not till hundreds of millions of years later that we get humans, right? So you got to understand that there's many more intermediate steps, right? But I'm not going to go over all of those, only because that would be getting off of topic from the evolution of multicellularity. But if you want to learn more about the following steps after that, watch some of my other videos on the reducibility of biological systems, because, you know, I have videos on the evolution of the human skeletal system, the human digestive system from beginning to end, the human reproductive system, circulatory system, integumentary system. And so those videos could help you learn more about the following steps, you know, after the evolution of multicellularity leading up to human, right? All right, that's all for now. See you guys.